Okay, so my conceptive theory on art and how to create a great piece of art is you have to look at it as one focal piece that's going to have two sides. You're going to have your positive side and your negative side. I guess it's really the true with anything in today's life. It's dealing with your inner soul and your outer soul, and your positive and the negative, and how all those four winds come together into a big whirlwind of art. And that's what we're trying to create, is we're trying to create that whirlwind that makes something really, really great. And in order to create that whirlwind, we have to kind of basically go back to the creation. How is it a whirlwind? How is there a big swirl of artistic creativity that comes out in one piece? We have to start with one focal point. And the one basic focal point is the foundation of our lives. The foundation that our life is positive, right? So we have to come down to foundation. It has to have a good steady surface to stand upon, because we ourselves are standing upon a big solid piece of foundation, right? The earth, where we came from. So we have to emanate from that one point, and then we have to emanate into 2 points, positive and the negative, although the foundation is one piece, the sewing machine. We have to have 2 or 3 different, we have to like basically break it down to like the Mandelbrot sequence. Out of 1 comes 2, and out of 2 comes 3, and then it twists into another form. Okay, so right now we have a humor aspect with the clown. And because we have the clown, as you can see, he is totally moving. I have his hat attached now. What I used was a can opener utensil to open cans, and attach that to his head with a screw up in here, and it gives me points of attachment. Remember, we're talking about the Mandelbrot effect, so we have to finish his head basically, because that's where we're at. We can't think about anything else. We can only focus on the finishing of his head. Okay, we can kind of work on other ideas back in here, because we have to help them grow, because when we help these ideas of foundation grow, they in turn inspire further things into the end piece, which is, this is going to end shortly. His head will become finished. I have put a couple, these are little hammers from a chime from a grandfather clock. And I have 2 of them here, and then I have the little springs that are right here. And to add some more foundation to his little point here, which I'm not sure what I want to do with yet, I might dangle a carrot from it, so he'll be running at the carrot that's continually attached to his hat. So the more he moves, the more the carrot moves. You know, kind of like how we are in our lives. The more the carrot moves, the more we move, right? So, I'm kind of befuddled on how to go upon this into a video, and just the only thing I can do is just actually make a really long video of you guys watching me work, and how maybe I put things into process as I'm going along here. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed up, but I'm gonna talk within here so it doesn't seem like I'm speeded up. In other words, it'll give me time to think of stuff. Okay, so you guys can just sit back and watch me figure stuff out. You know, this is how I do it. What I've done here is I have, into the inside, I ran this copper tubing in through the inside, and have it attached with a nut and some washers and some other things in there just to take up space, so his arm doesn't move a whole lot, but it's got enough mobility to, I can maybe even change it around to here, to the back side a little bit later. I mean, it's all tentative right now, so everything can move, everything can bend, everything can slide. Okay, so I've got this attachment here that's a little tight. I can slide this down and make it really long to come way over here in the back somewhere, you know. I don't know. It's just another thing like the Mandelbrot effect. You know, you got to keep spiraling out from the main focus till you come to a dedicated endpoint, right? So right now we're working on his arm, okay? And his arm could also be one of these things that are going to be down here, okay? And then his arm can actually come out of this branch here maybe, and be, so it'll move together like this. Right? You feel me? So none of this art stuff is known until you actually finish it. And creating a great piece is, you know, you gotta utilize your brain and your artistic ability to, in order for the piece to allow itself to come to fruition. All we can do is just work with the parts that we have, and till it comes into something, right? And then it's something great. Just like ourselves, we're always internally working with ourselves, giving us this thing to work out, gives us something to continue on. I'm thinking about putting a light bulb in his hat right here. I was thinking about that. What do you think about that? Put a light bulb in his hat. Oh, well, that opens up a whole nother option, doesn't it? Being able to put a hinge right in there, I could really move him up and around. See how it opens up right there? I didn't have that piece in there tight enough, right? So now this opens up a whole nother option to where I can stretch this out and put in something in here that would make it more strong. And it would, see, because the more I pull, right, it's all going to come apart, right? Isn't that the same with our lives too? The more that we pull, the more we come apart, right? So we can stay on our path of true form, which was the clown as intended, and just restabilize it, or we can bring it into something bigger, right? What is it that we want to do? Do we want to make something bigger and better, or do we want to go with our path where we are here? Because that's where we're at right now. Right now, if it gets any much more complex, I'm going to have to add another layer of stability back here. Okay, do you remember that? We got to deal with our stability. Otherwise, we get too randomized in our lives, and we end up going astray from where we want to go. Right? So right now we're going towards this clown guy, right? But we're getting really strangled out. We're like a marijuana plant that's growing way out there and starting to get really viney, you know? It doesn't bush out. So we have to come to the back here, because if we do want to get back to the foundation, because we're getting really stringy out here, we have to come back and settle down with something as another pivot point, as an arm. Okay, so we have two things here we can screw to, right back here. So we can screw something there that will help us control his head movement, right? And then from there we can continue with this screw attachment here to help alleviate that and give that a point of pivot where it'll be movable. All right, because that's kind of what we want it to be. We want it to be movable and kind of semi-posable without infringing upon the integrity of the stability of the project. Uh-oh. Getting too froggy. Okay, now I have to pay attention to that, because I'm starting to feel like I was getting a little aggressive with what I was doing. Okay? And what happens is when we start to get aggressive with what we're doing, And that, as with anything in life, if we can pull it apart, right? We can pull it apart and then come away with the loss of our focus of where we were going, right? So we have to slow down and remember to go with the flow, right? We have to refocus on what our intent is and where we want to go. So right now we're trying to maintain a focus here of where we're going with the right flow. We want the curls to be just right, because we don't want it to look like anything was done unintentionally, right? Because then it distracts away from the flow of what we're doing, right? So we have to remember to stay focused on our intent to where we're going. So we're going across the top here and we're lining these up so they look the same, right? So then we can go across here like this. Remember, we're going this Mandelbrot sequence. We have to go out and twist into a spiraling form of a foundation, right? Okay? Alright, now this can be used, okay? We can use this point here as another foundation for a point of control, okay? Remember, point of control, we have to have a point of control to be able to refocus back to the foundation, because we're splitting off on another tangent that needs more foundation in order to maintain control. Okay, so now we have another point up here where we can attach and build upon this foundation of control, so it's really nice and movable, right? So because we're at that point here, or somewhere in here, we're going to have to make this attachment stronger, which will make it, give it less control at the foundation. You feel me? So what we're going to do here is we're going to run these back right into the foundation here, okay? For right now. Temporarily. Okay? We can put them down there temporarily. We can still have some sort of sensation of control up here without it getting too out of control like it is happening right now with the nose. Okay? So because the nose was just kind of set up there, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. Right? So this is screwed into a hole back here that came undone. So here's his original place here. Now his buck teeth need to be attached to his neck right there, because that's what it is. It's like a 4-leaf clover that's attached back in there. His teeth are right here. His teeth are right here, and they're attached with a little loop back here on the back. It goes against this brass doohickey right here. So we have to provide an attachment from that to the back up here. because this back up here also needs stability. Because the only thing that it's wired with, well, is wire. You know, I did what I had to do in order to get it to a point where I could focalize what I wanted to do. Well, I'm now at that point where now I gotta maintain that stability, stable relationship. So I have to add a piece in there, like a piece in a bridge, right? You got to put one going the other way to make it all work the right way. So we're pretty stable with this idea here. So I think we're going to cinch it down, and we're going to put something in here that will make it more one piece yet remain movable, because to remain movable will require 3 points of contact, right? So when we have 3 points of contact, we're able to remain somewhat movable yet be affirmed with the points that we do have as an attachment. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. So now that we're turning this back here, now we have to look at some point of attachment, which we were going to go with here, right? But we decided to go up here first. Okay, now that's not a problem, it's just something we have to contend with. Now we got a small area in there in order to attach 2 screws that I don't know the size for. Now this is a point what I call kismet, where something that you have just happens to fit right in the right spot at the right time that you need it. And this happened right here with this. I was able to find this is the piece that went into the clock that helped give it the pivot point for the hour hand or something like that. I'm not sure, I can't quite remember, but it might have been the swivel for the little chimey doohickey gong thing. I think that might have been what kicked this tight onto that big round thing that swiveled and gave the tick-tock motion to the same motion that's in our lives, the same tick-tock, the positive and the negative pull that keeps drawing you away from the right direction, which is God, right? And when you find something like this where it just goes together perfectly, then you got to go with it, right? You have to. Because it's not very often that those things roll together like that, right? It's not very often. All these things just kind of fit together like that. That was a sign that that might not work. It might be too long. Now that gives us another point of yeehaw, right? Oh, you can kind of feel the Spirit of God come into you now, because it's like you can really start to see some attachment going on, right? So we can restabilize his hat. Remember, we were talking about 3 points of contact, so we can provide a hinge and some mobility. Because if we're going to do something that this could actually potentially be some sort of like cartoon character, right? Some sort of stop motion character in a movie or a film, because, well, it's a work of art, right? So we have to maintain this point of contact. Okay, so we have some spring here, right? We have some spring because this is basically a springy piece of metal, right? So that gives us a point where we can spring into action. Okay, so if we can find something that fits over this, like a bearing or a fitting of some sort that fits over the top of that, we can provide as a swivel, right? We can do something like this that can be another point of something that just doesn't need to be there. It's only temporary because we're working on this. This is getting in the way, right? So we move it to work on our focus, on our intent. Look at that. That fits right on there like that. See what that is? I don't know what that is, but it fits right on there. See how that slide around there? Yeah. That needs to be right there. Because, why? Because it's kismet. It fits right there. That is exactly what it needs to be doing. Now I just need to find that set screw to screw in there and set it to whatever direction that I want. Go into my box of set screws. Yeah, there. First one I grabbed. All right. Now, if that isn't the Spirit of God telling you, I don't know what is. Fits right in there. You found a set screw, right? That first thing, huh? Always, when you're looking for something that's hard to find, it's going to be right in front of you. And you're going to, if you're not looking for it, then it's not hard to find. If you have that deep down intent, it's not that hard to find. Okay, so we found a pipe. We found a piece. So this can go in here to serve as another leg in the monster that we're dealing with here, right? So if this goes in here and is able to turn, and we're looking for a point of connectivity right here. Okay, right, we got this piece here. Oh, I used an old carburetor right here on the side here. I didn't let you guys know that. This is a little carburetor that I have that provides us a nice swivel that I might connect to up here. That way when he moves, he will be moving this carburetor to help his heart, right? Remember, we're finding these things out together. So I'm thinking we probably should not get distracted at this point. Well, that's a good idea. I have it now in mind to be able to be used. But for right now, I think it's a distraction from maintaining control of this piece here. So our initial intent was to provide strength and stability here. Now we have the strength and stability here, which is connected, which provides for a hinge point because there's 3 points of contact. So if we could somehow attach something of strength here, because this goes down into his core, okay? So that piece that sticks up right there comes all the way down and plugs right into the center of the core, okay? So that's a really stable point, almost as stable as this piece. Yeah. It really goes down right there. We'll fit it. We'll fit it. We'll fit it. Okay. We'll try. Huh. Well, I just come up with an idea. Remember, I'm going to have the bull back here. Now I have this bull, who's the head back here, right? You can see his head, right? Rah, rah, ah, rah, ah. So he's always talking and yelling, right? Because he's the bull, he's in charge, right? He's charging. So we have the bull back here, right? And we got this guy who can be going back and reloading, okay, as he's, because I got him as a constant pivot point with no retraction. So it's the end point of a focus, right? So we're looking at his arm, okay, which is kind of an end point of focus, okay, because that's what we want. We want it to branch out into 3 or 4 different sequences so we can choose kind of a point to go with, okay? So we can go back and forth in that Mandelbrot sequence that drives us with our focus, okay, and our intent and everything that we do. So I have the bull back here yelling, right? And I'm wondering if I should have the bull like right at his ears, like rah, 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 like a boss, always yelling at you, right in your eye, right in your ears, right behind you, driving you forward, and then luring you, because remember we had that carrot idea, right? So he can be having the carrot, you know, back here, that's going to be hanging from his hat up over here. It's going to be hanging from his hat right over here, right? Have a carrot hanging there. So we're going to have him loading stuff because he's being yelled at to work harder, right? Pretty good fit right there. That provides me for something to attach here. And I'm fully attached and movable here. And I'm fully inserted. Fully stable foundation. Okay, so I have this point here that's a firm, stable foundation, and I have this point up here that's a firm, stable foundation. To provide for another pivot point up here for a point of action, I need to have that stability between these two pieces here, right? We're looking at breaking it back down into the foundation, because we're coming up to a focal point, which is going to be his head, his hat, his light, okay? So we have to think about the power. Where does he get the power for his light? Now, it's going to have to come down here from the foundation as a form of wiring or some sort of magnetic flux energy that would light the light. That's what we're looking for. So now that we've got this point of foundation down here, you see how I'm kind of bracketing it out into, I'm not really maintaining the sort of focus, but yet I am maintaining the sort of focus. What that is that's fractionalizing your focus, yet remaining with your one focal point, which is your artistic piece here. It will bracket down into whatever pieces that it needs to, okay? Right now, we're kind of like making a puppet with some sort of, has the ability to maintain his strength and mobility through screws and attachments and tension and torsion and springs, which we have the spring here, right? So how do we maintain that spring? Because it's stable down here with 2 points of contact. It's a stable third spring that can be used. Okay. Not to mention, it also looks like a couple eyeballs there with this. with this thing looking as another mouth, right? So if we wanted to, we can go ahead and change this to where there's two sides to this clown, right? So we're going to have a positive side and a negative side, right? So we're maintaining that depth of character. So we have this tie here, this little copper tie that is decorative from each side, okay? From this side it looks nice and tucked in, and from the other side, well, it looks the same way, right? He's got a little bow tie right there. Isn't that kind of cute, huh? And then he's got his other tie here, right? So we swing this around and it can be decorative in either way. Okay, so that's a bonus. We got decoration used two different ways. So we can focus back to our intent of maintaining the greatness of a piece of work, right? So we have this ability to move here. Now if we come off of here with another point here, maybe going the other direction, it would serve as a spring as well, going the other way, that we could connect to the carburetor over here on the other side. I think this will work as an attachment here. So we're going to go ahead and try to see if we can work it in there. Alright, now we've got that piece attached. Now it's not attached tight, but it is attached and it will not go. So it's freely able to move. Okay? So I think I'm going to make it a little bit tighter because it does seem really slacky like the rest of the upper part here. So I'm just going to screw it in a little bit tighter. Now I do have this cool little gear here that maybe I might use for the eyeball, or a focus point right here. Now what this would allow for is for it to have two sets of eyes, okay? because this would serve as like a center piece in between here, right? Makes it equal distance apart from there. So it would allow for us to drill a hole in here and attach this with a wire. Okay? And what we do with that wire, we don't know yet. Or it could be attached with a bolt or something else. We don't know yet because we haven't figured it out. Ah.